who I hope you will give your 100% full attention to, is Aaron Michaels. Aaron is with iHeartMedia, graduated from Western Carolina University, was former student general manager of WWCU. And I'll let you take it from there. What has your trail looked like, so to speak, starting in Asheville?
Yeah, so I started with iHeart. Well, actually, it was Clear Channel Radio at the time in Asheville. Actually, when I was a sophomore in high school, it's remote tech, just driving the vans, doing remote setup stuff like that. And that worked into me being board out for the weekends. And I was board up in live remotes and NASCAR races and a couple of little talk shows on the morning on our news talk stations. And then from there, when I was looking to go into college, obviously Western was my top choice because not only did they have an amazing, broadcast program, but it was still an hour away from my radio station, so I could still, keep my job and everything there. So when I went to college, it kind of transferred into, hey, we need a couple fill-ins for the weekend. And I was like, all right, cool. And I was there one weekend doing some work, and our Saturday night guy, who had some personal issues, just never showed up for a job at all. So my boss calls me and goes, hey, I need you to cover the night show tonight. Can you do that? I was like, yeah, that's not a problem. So I covered the night shows on the classic rock station, and that turned into a full-time weekend show, which then turned into a full-time night show on the classic rock station. And then right after college, I got a weekend gig on 99.9 Kiss Country and then doing some fill-ins there. And then from there, I started doing middays on our top 40 station while being the promotions director for the 6 stations, handling all the events and ticket giveaways and stuff like that. And then it transferred to me getting a full-time job doing nights on the country station on Kiss Country. And then like a week after I got nights, they said, hey, do you want to move to Greenville? We got an open position there for afternoons. And I was like, hey, yeah, it's pretty cool. Let's go down the mountain. So moved to Greenville, and I was supposed to be there for just afternoons. In a month I was there, they named me music director. So then I was in charge of making obviously the music logs and handling all the conversations with Nashville and all that kind of stuff. And since I've done that, since I've been in Greenville, I'm now on 8 stations a day across the country, 32 stations every week. And it's incredible. I mean, I'm literally not bragging, but coast to coast, top to bottom in the United States, you can find a station I'm on. I have friends that have moved all over the station, like, or in the nation, and they're like, oh my God, I can hear you. I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I didn't know it's on in that market. So it's kind of cool to figure out where I'm at and who hears me. And I've done everything at the station until the pandemic happened, obviously. Had to learn a whole new way of radio overnight. And since then, I've built a full-on radio studio in my house. And I do all my shows from home for all stations, including contests, callers, all that kind of stuff. Everything's piped right into my house here. And honestly, if you listen to me, listen to the guys, you couldn't tell if I'm at the house or at the radio station. So it's really good. I go on the station every now and then. I do kind of go in there and let my face be seen and do meetings and sit with salespeople and whatnot. But I have a really good setup here at the house. And so I told him, I was like, I'm going to stay home. I'm here now. So it's weird to see. I started out, my very first job in radio was still using a reel-to-reel to record phone calls and produce promos and everything, to now everything's remote at my house and I can be on air in 2 seconds if I need to from the home, which is really crazy.
What markets are you in?
So I do afternoons for 99.9 Kiss Country, which you can hear there at Cullowhee. I do afternoons for Whistle 100 in Greenville, South Carolina. I do nights at 104.1 WTQR in Greensboro. Nights at US 103.5 in Tampa, Florida. I do nights for Case 101 in Austin, Texas. Nights in KJ 97 in San Antonio. And then on the weekends, I'm doing middays in Hartford, Raleigh, Cleveland, Omaha, and I'm missing one, Jacksonville, Florida, Grand Rapids, Michigan. And then I do one show, or I do 2, now I've added a second show, but I do 2 shows that's called our custom channel. And so I do one, not really generic. It's like I use all my normal show prep, but I don't say station names individually. I just kind of put the info in there, and it's sent out to about 30 different radio stations across the country. And then during the week, I'm cutting custom liners that run on the station, so it sounds like I'm a local guy. So like I cut all the station intros and slogans and all that kind of stuff. So it'll say, what is it? 92.9 The Big Dog in Sacramento. You'll hear me say 92.9 The Big Dog, and then my voice track from me going, hey, that's Thomas Fred right there, his latest, and you can't really tell the difference that I'm not there and not doing it right there. So it's pretty cool how that works.
How do you keep track of all of that?
I get asked this question a lot from a lot of people who start taking on shows. I would love to tell you that this big, system layout and everything. It is really weird. As long as I know what station I'm on, and luckily with my system I'm using, it shows me the call letters, and so I can see the call letters that I'm on, and my mind just knows. All right, WTQR is Q104.1, number one for new country and your all-time favorites, and that's how I go. Now, when it comes to finding local content for the shows, my Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff is just loaded down. Like if there's like a severe thunderstorm warning or something like that, it takes me a good 5 to 8 minutes to figure out which station it's on and if it's affecting me personally, or if I got to go on and do like a track for another station and all that. So that's a little crazy sometimes, is figuring out where is what on my social media, my emails, and all that kind of stuff. But as long as I stay focused, I always tell my wife, "No, don't interrupt me during the show, because if I come back in, I'm going to forget what station I'm on." So as long as I can see the call letters, my mind kind of just knows where I'm at and what station I'm doing.
What's an average day for you look like, Monday through Friday, or actually it's Monday through Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, Monday through, yeah, really, honestly, no joke. I don't have really a day off. I kind of deal with that because I'm at home, so I don't really whine about it too much. I do take time off, to go stuff with the family or whatever. But normal day is once I take the kids to school and everything, get home. I've got 4 kids. I take them to school, get home around 9, and I'll start show prepping right then and there on my phone. Like I'll eat breakfast and just scroll through all the news feeds, look at what's trending on Twitter, what's trending on TikTok, kind of get an idea of all that kind of stuff. See what people are talking about everywhere. It doesn't matter. I'm a big guy on Reddit. I love going on Reddit and see what people are talking, what topics are trending there and everything. And then throughout the day, I'll keep checking that. So when I start my shows, I know kind of what's happening, what the latest is. Luckily, a lot of my program directors will send out an email every morning with the kind of big news topics for the day around the town that they're in and stuff to look out for. So that helps out a lot. So I kind of make a mental plan in my head. All right, so I want to hit this story in Tampa about, Tom Brady missing the pass yesterday. Like everyone's talking about Tom Brady missing his pass in Germany. Obviously, I'm going to make a joke about that. So I keep that in the back of my mind. Greensboro, they had a little flurries over the weekend and everyone was flipping out about snow over the weekend. So we talking about, or it's more Boone area, but we consider that Greensboro still. But we're going to be talking about that for sure. I get into the studio, try to around 10:30, 11 every morning, and start cutting anything that needs to be cut, meaning my endorsements that I have for clients that have bought me as an endorser or influencer. I cut any kind of production that has to be done for other stations or those lines that I was talking about for the custom show. Try to get all that knocked out before lunchtime. That way the stations have plenty of time to have that to turn it around to clients if they need to get approval for it, or if they need to get it in the system, they have plenty of time to do that. After lunch, I'll get back in, and around 1:30, I start working on my shows. And I work on my night shows first because I like my afternoon shows to be live, as live as it can be. I'm about 5 minutes ahead of every break that runs. Because I use my afternoon shows to fuel my night shows. So whatever I talk about in the afternoon show, the next day will be on my night shows. So I go ahead and get my night shows kind of knocked out, and I'll finish up an entire show. But if something breaks, something changes, obviously I'll go through and redo it. Perfect example, as sad as it is, I had finished my night show for San Antonio back in April or May when the Uvalde shooting happened, and immediately had to pinch it and run back in and delete everything, obviously. And it went from a happy, upbeat show to the hardest 3 weeks of radio I've ever done in my life. There's just, when you have a tragedy like that, there's not much to say, not much to do. So that, is a perfect example of, oh man, I got to get in the studio and fix this. I was actually headed to Detroit. You go watch my Eagles kick off the season back at the beginning of the season. And App State almost, was it App State? I can't remember who it was. One of the schools almost had a big upset, and I was logged in the car with my microphone and my laptop ready to update breaks if whatever happened had happened, because it was such a big football story. I can't remember what station I was on, but I was ready to go because I'm like, dude, I can't skip that break. Everyone's going to be talking about that today. So I'll always keep stuff up to date if I need to. But then I do my afternoon show, get calls, give away all the contests we have for the day and whatnot. And then I'll save them all down, all the phone calls that I get, and in a folder for the next day. And then that's when I pull them up and start tracking the next day. So I try to get done most everything by the end of my show around 7. So I have dinner with the family and everything. But I always either have to come back in and finish up some stuff for the night shows that have changed, or sports and stuff that have changed. Or I haven't got my night shows done if it's a crazy day, or I'm just, some days you're not focused. I'll get at least most of my night shows started, so then I can put the kids to bed and then come back in when they're done and finish those shows up in a live fashion as well. So if it's a good day, I'm out of here by about 7. If it's a bad day, I'm here till midnight. So it depends on how the day goes.
Okay, music format. Obviously, not every station is the same format. What formats do you work?
I do country exclusively. I started out classic rock, then did top 40, but then moved to country and kind of found my voice in my home here. I wasn't even the biggest country fan growing up, to be honest with you. I was a huge rocker. Like, I always listened to classic rock and new rock and stuff like that. But something about country kind of really resonated with me when I was at Western, really started listening to it more and more. And just, again, just something that I felt more comfortable on air doing country than I had anything else. Now, I've been wanting to get back into kind of the rock side of it and trying to like keep my nose in there to do some fill-ins here and there for some people that I know around the country, but country, it's just where I'm at. I know the format inside and out. I know 90% of the artists on a personal level at this point, because I've had to meet up for work and everything. So doing a show is very, I don't want to say more easy, but it's easy because I know what's happening in their lives. I've followed all the guys on and girls on social media and everything like that, and the label keeps me up to date with what's going on. So that part of it's the easy part of the show, because the national prep, which is like the lottery and the artist news and all that's going to be the same across any station you're doing, and then you just make it local with your local news and localities and everything to make it sound a little different.
When you do your shows, how important, we were talking about Nielsen ratings the other day.
Yeah.
How important is research to the job of an announcer?
Very, very important. I mean, obviously, like my 2 afternoon shows, I'll use those as an example. We skew women 25-54, and we have, and this, I should have brought it with me. I have a paper printout of what we call, her name is Karen, which is funny because I always joke around like, can we not come up with a different name? But Karen is a 32-year-old nurse at the local hospital. Karen's got 2 kids. Her one kid plays baseball. The other kid plays soccer. Her husband is a construction worker. And that's the person that I detail my show to every single day. That's what we've done our research on to figure out. That is our mean audience right there. And so if I'm sitting there talking about something, does Karen really care about Tom Brady dropping a pass in Greenville or Asheville? Probably not. Now, if Karen lives in Tampa, yeah, everyone's talking about that. But does Karen care about the inflation? Yeah, of course, because it's more expensive to take your kid everywhere. Does Karen care about Thomas Rhett giving, having a concert in town, giving away tickets? Heck yes, she does. And so I tailor my show to stuff like that. Things that I wouldn't personally talk about, I'll talk about on air and make it sound like I'm obviously excited about it because our core listener is excited about that.
What's the opposite end of the spectrum there? Do you have a station that skews the other direction?
We used to have, now we got a sports station in our cluster here in Greenville, which is nice. We hadn't had that before. It's a Fox sports station. So they're, completely different. But before we flipped that to sports, we had a rock station. It was, we called it a jukebox. It was no talent, just music and really good imaging. It was just to get the TSL up for our cluster during the workday and to get it away from the competition. And so then there's no jocks on it. People were loving it. But it was called Real Rock 104.9 Man Up. And it was all about men. Like there was grilling tips, there was grooming tips in between the songs. Honestly, it was one of the most fun stations I had a hand in programming because we all kind of put our input into it. And things that you were like, there's no way we can get away with this, right? And we produced it, we put it on the air, and no one would call and complain. We're like, oh, I guess we can get away with that. So it was a really, really fun product that we had on for about 4 or 5 years, and it did exactly what we wanted to do. It took away listeners from the other rock station across the street. It took away listeners from the I call it the mix station, where they kind of run everything. But we ended up getting some really good research on, hey, they want some sports in the station in the format that's not local sports. We had a station that flipped from ESPN to local sports in the market, which you would think, oh, local's great. But you can only talk about Clemson and South Carolina and Furman so much before you're like, oh my God, talk about some national sports. And so we put on Fox Sports, which has we have a local afternoon show, but we're obviously satellite the rest of the time, and it's doing really well for us.
So what capabilities do you have there in your studio? For example, can somebody in one of the remote cities call you?
Yes, so I have obviously with the computers now, I mean, Zoom, FaceTime, whatever, Microsoft Teams, all that. I can pipe all that through. I've done multiple artist interviews with Zoom where I can record it, obviously. So I have a video aspect for my vlogs and social later, and then I've got clean audio that I can air on my shows and stuff like that. Or I've got 2 different phone setups in here. I've got a studio phone that they've sent me. So when the studio lines ring in Greenville and Asheville, it rings here as well. And so I don't answer them unless it's during my show time, with that piped into my board. Or I can obviously attach my cell phone to my Rodecaster as well. So like when I do artist interviews, I'll have them just call my cell phone, so that way I can make sure that I've got the audio the right way. And I don't miss a phone call or anything like that, but I've got multiple chances for them to do that. Plus, I don't know if you guys know what Clean Feed Audio is, but I use Clean Feed a lot. It's a voice over IP free service if you go to cleanfeed.net. And so that's sometimes how me and a couple other jocks will get together and we'll record. I'm kind of blowing the lid off of radio here. We'll record sign-offs and intros for each other. So like if I'm going out to afternoons for 99.9 Kiss Country, when I'm done my show, I could call Corey, who does nights for us out of DC. We could be on Clean Feed and it sounds like he's in the studio and we're chatting and then passing the mic over to him, kind of old school way the radio used to do. So we can do that sometimes too. So multiple ways to get in touch with me, whether it's, talent, other talent needs me or artist or whatever.
You mentioned Roadcaster. Is that your control board?
Yeah, that's my control board here. I got the Rodecaster Pro. I'm going to get that Rodecaster 2 ordered very soon because you can do dual computers. Right now, I've got it just piped in through the eighth jack, which works, but I'd rather have 2 USBs in here. There's other guys that have different boards, like the Tascam Zoom is a pretty good board I've seen some guys with. I mean, there's other guys out there that have full-on radio consoles in their house, but one, didn't have that space, and 2, I can do everything with this thing here. I've actually got a second Rodecaster in a Gator case that goes with me everywhere we go. So like when the family and I go out on trips or my son plays travel baseball, so I bring it with me all the time in case there's a national emergency or something needs to be changed. And there's been many times in between my son's games, I've walked out to the truck, set it up and finished up doing radio shows or fix something in my truck, which is nice that I have the ability to do that now.
We had Jeff Lawrence a few weeks ago, and Jeff was talking about riding in the back seat with his wife driving. Yep. And cutting material as he goes down the road.
I've done that too. Yeah. Hey, we pull over. I need you to drive. There's something going on. And I remember it was Austin. We had a tornado warning. It was a Saturday afternoon. I remember Austin's an hour behind us. So it was like 6 o'clock our time. We were going to meet some friends for dinner. And luckily, I hadn't taken the Gator case out of my truck yet. I was like, yeah, I'll get it out later. No big deal. And so I pulled over. I was like, all right, you got to drive. And so I'm in the back just doing my brakes going down the road and literally couldn't tell the difference. I mean, they recorded it, sent it perfectly. And I was able to get the tornado warnings up on the air and everything worked out. So.
So the concept of 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, does anybody in radio work that?
I mean, the managers do, but we don't. the guys and girls that are actually making the money. I mean, even salespeople nowadays, man, I feel by the salespeople. You always think salespeople have kind of an easier job. They get to go out, make a couple sales. And these poor people, they're not stopping anymore, just like we are. They're just, everyone's trying to get that grab at dollars anymore. And same thing with us. I mean, they're not going to get dollars if we're not putting in the best product, which is why I'm okay with working till midnight sometimes in the house, because at least I know I'm putting on a good show and that's going to get me some revenue down the road. But at least I'm at my house. You know what I mean? If I had to work at midnight to the radio station every night after working throughout the day and then come home, I'd be one irate person. But I figure, man, I can take a break and go watch some TV when I need to, or like during the day, walk my dogs or get to see my kids more than I ever did before. So I'm okay with it. But really 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 doesn't happen in radio anymore. There's so few, I mean, honestly, everyone knows they've cut positions like crazy in every company. And so radio is definitely no different than that. It's one of those like, all right, we got to get this done. Let's just get it done.
Your studio there in the house, does everybody that lives in the house, wife, children, know that when dad goes in there, he's doing business?
Yeah, so what I need to do next is get it on air light so everyone knows, because I don't have a window in my door. So that's my next thing we try to do over the Christmas break. But yeah, as long as the door is closed, I know to kind of leave me alone. My wife will text me, hey, can you take a break and come here? And I'll get up, and that's an easy way for her to get a hold of me. The baby, we've got a little 1.5-year-old. She doesn't quite understand that yet. So she'll come like banging on the door in the middle of her break. So I just kind of have to roll with it. But sometimes if you're listening closely, you can hear my kids like fighting in the background. And it's absolutely hysterical. And I've had people message me like, I can hear your kids in the background. I'm like, yeah, not much I can do about that. But to me, that's the realism of radio. And I know a lot of people have gone back to normal, after the pandemic, but there's still a lot of people I know that are just like, man, I'm not going back in the office ever. So for me, it's kind of makes it more of a real, like, I learned how to do something new during the pandemic and I'm not giving it up right now, as long as I can hold on at least.
Well, that was my next question. Is iHeart happy with people working at home? In other words, are they going to say at some point, everybody's got to come to the studio?
Well, so honestly, they tried about 2 months ago or about a month ago now, I would say, to say, hey, all right, you got to come back in. And I was like, excuse me? They're like, yeah, everyone needs to be back in. And I just replied back with, why? I mean, I probably should have been a little bit more, I don't know, more business-like with it, but I was like, why? Like, well, we just want everyone there. And I was like, I'm not coming in for you to check a box on an attendance record here. I was like, I do how many shows a day, how many shows a week. I've never missed anything since the pandemic started. And, unless I was on vacation, like I honestly, knock on wood, I haven't been sick. Like, yeah, I even got the easy COVID, whatever that one was called, last Christmas. I still did my shows. I would do a show, take a nap, do a show, take a nap. I just got them done. I didn't need to fill in. And so when I told them that, they're like, well, I guess you can stay there. Maybe you could come in every now and then. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come in every now and then. So I go in maybe twice a week. Like last week, I only went once and said hi, made sure I was seen, and then snuck out the door and went back home and did my show. So I think they know to not try to push it too much, because there's a lot of us that still do a lot of our shows at home. I know like the guys in like DC and New York, they're kind of were forced to go back to the union. There's not much they could do there, but they hate it. They hate being back at the radio station. I mean, they're building new studios across the nation. And I know 3 people in 3 different markets who have brand new studios. They're like, my home studio is better. I do my shows from home still. So I'm not alone in that. That's for sure.
How has that affected radio station space-wise?
Oh man, we could fit our entire staff we have now in Greenville. We have 2 floors in the Canal Insurance Building in downtown Greenville, the 10th and 11th floor. And it's got a really cool staircase in the middle and the big iHeart logo. It's gorgeous when you walk in. We could fit everybody on one wing of one floor now, because people are either not in the building or we've downsized, staff to be a little bit more efficient. So the problem is a lot of stations are realizing they have too much space now. They bought these big buildings, or they've bought these big storefronts. Like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And so a lot of stations are downsizing into newer, smaller offices and building out these big buildings, or in the big studios inside. Atlanta just finished up their rebuild. They built I don't know, maybe 8-9 miles down the road in this like old factory that they've redone. They're doing that in towns everywhere. And but they've done an open concept. So if you can imagine, everybody, bosses included, no one has an office. They have workspaces. And oh my God, everyone I know that works there says it's god awful. You can't get any work done. It's loud as heck. Everyone's on top of you. You can't plan a secret show or anything anymore, because everyone knows what you're doing and who you're talking to. And the studios are crazy. There's only 2 main studios, and the rest are prod rooms. And every studio can be configured to be a studio what they need. So like the big stations in Atlanta in the mornings are 94.9 The Bull, and then 96.1 Power 96.1. So those 2 stations, the studios are used in the morning for the morning shows. But then the prod rooms can be a live station as well, just by configuring the new boards and stuff like that. So I don't get that part. I mean, I haven't gone down there to see it yet, but I like my old school radio where your station has one studio and everyone uses that studio. And I guess I'm old school, and I want to get away from that at all. As well, I'm saying that in my home studio now, but at least I'm not taking up the studio space, in Greenville doing all my shows. So
There was a time when announcers wanted to move up in markets, and the trail would be Asheville, Greenville, Raleigh, all
Yep.
that. Has that kind of cooled off from the standpoint of you don't have to physically be there?
Yeah, so honestly, when I moved to Greenville back in 2013, I was told, hey, this is a stepping stone. And I'm not too unknown. Apparently, I was doing something right when I moved down here, because the whole company, everyone I talked to was like, oh my God, we love you. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I just want to keep doing this to get paid. I don't know what you want to do here. Like, so they're like, we're going to move to Greenville and you're going to move on. I was like, okay, cool. And then I moved to Greenville, and then I met my wife, and then we got married, and then we've had kids. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not moving, man. Like, I like it here. Like, I like the schools here. I like the town here. We're 3 hours from the beach if we want to go. We're 3 hours from like the mountains if we really want to go deep in the mountains. And an hour from either a big city for big concerts. Like, I'm good here. I don't want to move. And so now I'm doing, Tampa is the number 10 market in the nation. And I'm on in Tampa, and I'm number 1 nights in Tampa. It's the last book. And I'm doing it all from my house. Like, why would I want to move to a city where I'll have to spend a ton more in living costs and everything? But it also does free up the point, if my wife ever gets relocated for her job, I can probably be like, hey, I'm moving with her. I can do it from wherever now. So that's the one good thing. Right before the pandemic, I actually was, when I say close, I was supposed to be signing a contract in like October before the pandemic to move to Charlotte. And we were told, hey, we got to delay it. We got a little hiring freeze. So we'll get to the beginning of the year. What I didn't know in the background was they kind of foresaw what was happening, which is, I'm telling you, it's nuts. This company saw what was coming with the pandemic. Everyone no one knows how they did this. I still to this day understood what they saw coming, but they saw what was happening, and they ended up doing a downsizing on the company in January before the pandemic started in March. And if I moved to Charlotte when I signed that, when I was supposed to sign the contract, I would have been downsizing out of a job in a new city after moving my family. So that would have sucked. So I was kind of glad that I got shifted over to doing more of the shows that I'm doing now versus what they were going to move to Charlotte for. And I ended up saving my job, my career, and let me do a bunch more stations.
So what's your advice to the students that are sitting here who say, maybe I want to go into radio or television or whatever? What do they need to be doing here at school?
Definitely get involved in school. I mean, WWCU was where I can't tell you how much I grew there. That station over the 4 years. I started on air doing afternoons at 90.5.
And what was the name of that show?
Which one? I had a couple different ones over the 4 years.
One with Tyler Sellers.
Oh yeah, TNA in the morning. We did, or in the afternoon. We did it was my buddy Tyler and Aaron, so we just called it TNA in the afternoon. And I tell you what, well, no one wants to agree. We actually had some ratings pops out of the Asheville market for Waynesville. That's when we had the signal into Waynesville, and I thought we were doing pretty damn good. We actually did a show live from Vegas from the NAB show. Remember that, Don?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that was awesome. But so WWCU was where I really grew. I mean, I started there my freshman year, like first semester. Doing a show. I can't remember what show I did then. I feel like it was like a random hour, but really learning and kind of figuring out new ways of radio. Like obviously I'd already done radio, but it was fun to get to do it a little bit more free where I didn't have someone jumping down my throat if I talked too longer than I needed to. And it was great to get to work alongside my friends and really figure out what we liked doing in radio, what shows we liked. And then, I'll be honest, some of my most fun times was up there at the station making promos that never made it on air, or sweepers that never made it on air, but man, we had a blast making them and stuff like that. So I would definitely say get involved with the radio station and anything you can do around the school. If you want to go into TV, obviously get involved with the football games, because that to me is so cool that you guys are on the big screen out there. I haven't got a chance to see that in person yet, but I mean, getting involved and getting your feet out there, any kind of internship you can find in any kind of media company is going to help you out. Even if it's not like, hey, I want to go into radio, but this TV station has got an internship. Man, it's broadcasting. It's going to get your foot in the door. You'll have some experience, because as you know, radio now is not just radio. All the stations are building are full on, 6-7 camera setups in the studios now with a full on switcher board next to the soundboard. So if you get some TV experience in you, which I wish I had, that would help you out a lot in radio. When you go to these markets that have a morning show, they're like, hey, now it's not just, hey, we need a board out. Hey, we need a camera operator for a radio station. Well, damn, then you're in radio and you're doing camera work that you know what you're doing. I would get involved in anything you can get involved in. And when you get a job, I hate to say it this way, but don't be afraid to say yes. I'd say yes to everything. Like, hey, they want you to run the 6 a.m. Catholic church service on Sunday. Sure, I'll be there, because you run that really well. And that one old lady sends the email every week that says, we just love this show. They know you're doing your job right. And that gets you advances up. Hey, you want to be a remote tech that drives a van? Is it the most glorious job in the world? No, but it gets your foot in the door. You know what I mean? It gets you around the radio station and around people. Like when I graduated college, I graduated again right before it was 2010, coming off that 08 economy crash. And so the state company was going through ups and downs, and they laid off some people, and I had a job lined up as a production guy for the cluster. I was going to be doing imaging for the entire cluster, like sign the papers. That's what I was doing. And April of my graduating year, that job was eliminated. I was like, well, that sucks. I had something lined up. Now what do? I ended up running the front desk at the radio station for 6 months just to keep my foot in the door and doing fill-ins until I finally got back. And that's when I got the weekends and nights for Kids Country. So anything and everything you can do is what you should be doing for sure.
As music director, what do you do from the standpoint of you're the person who makes the decision as to what goes on the air, correct?
Yeah, so me and my program director, Kick Slayton, we both kind of make the decisions together. So it all starts with the record labels in Nashville. I mean, you name it, if the record label exists in Nashville, there are hundreds of them now. They've got my phone number. I take phone calls Tuesdays and Thursdays from them. So I don't talk to everyone every week, but I talk to the ones that I need to, or if I'm trying to do some business with. And they're salespeopeople. No, there's no other way to say it. They're glorified salespeople pitching their songs to me to play. Hey, Thomas Rhett's going for ads today, and he's already streaming this much in your market. I'm like, okay, cool. So I take a look at all the information they're sending me, streamings, downloads, Shazams, Apple, the playlists and stuff like that. And I was like, Callahan, out. Hang on one second. I'm sorry. Callahan, get out. I'm on the phone. Get out.
What that?
Okay, go. Sorry. Gosh, bless it. Anyway, so I look at all that kind of research, and then I pitch to my program director the songs that I feel is best for our audience. So I know what artists test really well with our audience, and we send out like an email every week, and we call it the listener club, where people can listen to a couple of clips of songs and they'll rate them. So we know, all right, look, like Thomas Rhett's really good. Obviously, Luke Combs, Cody Johnson, Jason Aldean, Morgan Wallen. Morgan Wallen could put out a song every Monday and we'd play it and it would be #1 by Friday. The dude's on fire right now. He's what Luke Bryan was when I first got into music directing. Like Luke Bryan could do no wrong. And now, it's kind of times for shifting a little bit. So we do that and we look at, where the songs are on the charts. And I mean, you add a song nowadays and you're connected to that song, unless the label pulls it, you're connected to that song for close to a year, about 52 weeks. You're going to be dealing with that song as it works its way up to the charts. If they hit a song that's already like trending crazy and we're not on it yet and it's in the 40s, you're still with that song for a good 6 months before you can put it in a recurrent and kind of get it off your station for a little bit. So you're watching that really closely, like, all right, do we want to be connected to, whatever artist? Yes, they got a great song and I really liked them when they came through and visited with us, but I don't know, do you see the it factor there? So you got to really kind of judge that too. And I feel bad for a lot of these artists because they may have some really great music, but if I didn't have a really good connection in the amount of time that I met them with a record label, I don't do a lot with them because I'm going to have to see them more and more. And if it wasn't a good connection at the first time, just like, God, when you're on a date, the first date, hell, that could have been your husband and your wife, but if it was a bad impression, you're not going to go on a second date. You know what I mean? So I do a lot with the personal relationships. I look at what's trending as well. And then we base our every week on ads. If we have space, if we got space to put a song in, we'll add it. Like today, we have no space. So we submitted no ads for today. And we've got 4 more weeks till the charts close in the year. So we're getting inundated with labels like, hey, get my song up for the end of the year. I'm like, why would I put this on? I have no space. If you're going to get 1 spin a week, that's not going to get tempted. It's not going to get you reported to the actual, chart. So there's a lot that goes into that. And then we take all that, obviously put it in the system, which is called G Selector, and then it spits out the music log with the algorithm. And we go through and kind of just massage it and make it sound better. So you don't have 2 Jason Aldeans within, a couple of minutes of each other and things like that.
Concerts. You go to a lot of concerts?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'll be honest with you, before pandemic, I was like, I hate going to concerts anymore. It just was one of those, like, I hate to say it, I was so spoiled because it was like, okay, great. Like Eric Church, I've seen him, 1,000 times. I'll go because I got to be there. And then when you have no concerts for 2 years, like, bring the concerts back, I'm ready to go. So now I take a very conscious effort of going to as many as I possibly can. Of course, the family lifestyle hinders that a little bit. We also got to get babysitters now. But like 2 weekends ago, we had the GVO Music Fest in town. It was 3 days of country. We had Zach Bryan headlining one night, had Turnpike Troubadours another night. And it was just 2 days of amazing country music. And boy, I was tired by the end of the weekend. I was like, I am not doing anything else. Like, I didn't go into work that next Monday. I was like, I need a break. I got to have a break from it. So the concerts are cool though, because you can see your listeners obviously face to face. You see how excited they are about the music and you realize, all right, we're playing the right music. They love this. And then for me, it's always get there. And what we do is we set up outside the show. If it's a local show, we'll set up outside the show with the station van. We'll give away some last minute upfront tickets or meet and greet stuff like that. Actually, well, not meet and greets. They don't do that anymore because of COVID. Everyone's so scared. But we do stuff like that. And then I'll go in before the show starts and they take us down to the radio room where it's all the radio programmers, either from our market, which is usually just me and Kicks because we're the only country guys here. And then they'll bring up some guys from like Columbia or down from Asheville, and they'll bring the artists in and get kind of one-on-one time with the artist and have a couple of drinks and share stories and take pictures and stuff like that. So it's a cool way to keep the one-on-one relationship going with the artists when they're in town.
Now, do you have to sign any paperwork when you accept tickets or things like that?
Yeah, so obviously through Live Nation and Ticketmaster, stuff like that, we do ticket giveaways for that. It's a part of their ad buy, so they'll buy ads and that's agreed upon, and then they have comp tickets they give us and we give those away. We'll call her 9 throughout the week and whatnot. But through the record label, they'll try to offer us, hey, we want to give you, 5 front row tickets or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 tickets for the week of the show to bump up the last minute ticket sales. And so we have an RLR, the record relations record that we have to say, all right, we accepted 5 pairs of tickets from such and such label for this show. Here's how we're giving it away. And then we have to sign that there was no added airplay in addition to that. So they can't say, hey, I'm going to give you 5 pairs of tickets to the sold out Thomas Rhett show if you'll spin his song more before it hits number 1. Like, nope, can't do that. I'm sorry. But you can do the tickets on giveaway just to promote your artist. But so we have to be very careful in how we work that out. We do put on shows, we call them acoustic jams, where it's guitar pull, where it's, the artist on stage with guitars, and it could be a big act. We've had like Thomas Rhett, we've had Lady A and stuff like that before. And what we do is it's free. That we don't, the artists don't charge us for that because we do it for charity. We do it for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. All the money raised goes to St. Jude. So we actually sell tickets to our listeners, but money all goes to St. Jude, other than we pay for transportation and hotel for the artists. We take care of that for them. And so that's kind of I would say kind of like a gentleman's agreement, but it's been known and everyone does this out of Nashville. All the stations do it. So it's just one of those things that you work it out. And then we, as a thank you for the artists, we will play the songs. We're not going to drop, like if an artist is coming in for a show and their song tanks and they pull the song, I'm not going to pull the song off the air. I'm going to play the song for a few more weeks because they came in and did us a favor. So it's kind of like a gentleman's agreement, but that's all above the board, legal. Everyone does that. And as long as it's going to charity, that's good. Now, if you're doing a purely revenue show, you're paying up the butt for a lot of these artists. You've got to have 25, 50 grand just to get one of the artists nowadays. So,
Yeah. Who's got questions? Yes, Luke, you're going to have to come up here. I'm going to move this camera a little bit.
Yeah.
There he is.
How do you not get burnt out doing, juggling all these responsibilities and jobs?
I'll be honest with you, man. It's so you guys know what? There's some days where I'll walk out of my studio and I'll just sit down on the couch and she's like, hey, you want to talk? I'm like, nope, leave me alone. I'm gonna stare at TikTok, I'm gonna watch TV. I don't want to do anything. I when I do start to get burnt out, and I'll be honest with you, I think you guys can deal with this with college too. Where you're like, I'm quitting, I'm done. I'm gonna go find something else to do. I remind myself I've been doing this for now 17 years. I've been through ups and downs of this company and this economy and stuff like that. And I am not a guy that needs to be in an office doing paperwork because I could not be a corporate guy. I'll be honest with you. Like a radio corporate is different than job corporate in my head. So like I'm like when I get mad at something at the radio station, I can say what I want to say to the people that I work with and they understand. If I said what I said to someone else in a corporate job, I'd be fired in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? Like if that makes sense. Like I've got a really horrible mouth and I'm not on the radio. And so everyone knows that, but I remind myself that there are way worse jobs out there and I could be doing stuff that I don't really want to do. Like I wouldn't want to be digging ditches. Nothing wrong with that profession at all. That's just something I don't think I could do. You know what I mean? So I just remind myself there's way worse jobs out there. I make decent money doing something that I have loved since I was like 12 years old. And I mean, as much as I get burnt out, I'm sitting in my own room with the TV in front of me. I can take a break whenever I want to. Like, you're never going to find a job like this again. So I tell myself to suck it up and take a break and kind of just relax myself out. It's not probably the best way, probably suppressing a lot of feelings I shouldn't, but just kind of got to remind yourself where you're at, what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, man. Thank you.
Got questions? Yeah, come up. You're going to have to come up here so he can hear you and see you.
Like stand right here, do you need to move it closer?
Can you hear her?
Yeah, I can hear it. Yep.
How do you balance, like, since you work from home, correct, or you work remotely, how do you kind of like have that work-life balance, working in the same place that's also your home?
Yeah, that's the worst part. And my wife has to remind me a lot of times to hurry up and get done tonight so we can eat dinner or I can spend time with her. What's funny, she also works from home too. She works for a fintech company out of Vegas. So luckily she's doing a lot of coding and a lot of she works in the legal department. So she does a lot of coding and legal work there. So she's as busy as I am a lot of times. So that kind of gives me a break. But it is hard to have to again remind myself, hey, let's go let the dogs out. Let's walk around the neighborhood. I've got my 1-year-old here when she's not napping. She's napping right now. I try to take, 15, 20-minute breaks to go play with her. And my wife and I will split what's going on with her and what's going on with her job and my job. And there's days where I'm like, look, I could get in the studio tonight and knock out a ton of stuff for the week and be ahead. But my kids want to go outside and play. So I'm going to go outside and play. So I just got to tell myself, spending time with your family, or for me, like tonight's Monday Night Football, my Eagles, nothing's going to stop me from that 8:20 kickoff. I don't care what's going on. I don't care if my shows aren't done. I'll do them later when the game's over. So I'm working to get, to the point where I can go enjoy what I want to enjoy. So I just set a lot of time limits on myself. Hey, only spend 15 minutes trying to find this one topic to talk about. Only spend 10 minutes on your blog today, as long as I know what I'm talking about. So I set a lot of time limits for what I'm working on. And then as I'm doing my shows, I set a time limit of 30 minutes a show, and then I try to beat that time limit all the time. Now, I'm not saying I rush through my shows, but as long as I have it planned out, I should know what I'm talking about at every break. You know what I mean? Like, as long as I know my national country music news and I know what's going on in that market, I should be able to boom, 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 boom through and know what I'm talking about. And I'll make little notes of, hey, I talked about this here, talked about that there, in case I have to go back and fix something. So it's just kind of setting limits for yourself and knowing, hurry up and get this done. And then, make sure you take time for yourself for sure.
Who else? Nobody has any other questions? And the silence is deafening.
Yeah, silence is weird.
So kind of going into like the studio life, like if you do go back to the studio, what's like the tattoo policy of like studios?
Oh, I got a couple on me. This one is the on-air light. If you can see that one, that was literally I went with my wife to get a tattoo, and her friend was supposed to go with her, and the friend never showed up, and I felt bad with the tattoo artist. I was like, yeah, put that on my wrist, whatever. I spend like 8 hours a day for the microphone. And then I got this one. Maybe you can see it, it's my mic there. It's a barcode with a date on it, and the barcode's my real last name. Of the date is a date that I donated a kitty to my older brother back in 07 when I was a freshman there at Western. Actually, I know guys that are full on sleeve tattoos, neck tattoos. I mean, one guy I worked with was like Travis Barker light. Does that make sense? So as long as they're not vulgar, and if they are vulgar, as long as they're covered up, they don't care about tattoos one bit. I've only had one boss tell us, I want y'all wearing slacks to work. We're like, who the hell wants to see radio people in slacks? Like, everyone looks at radio people as like, you and I, like, we're friends. And so to give them trouble, we all showed up in 3-piece tuxedos the next day. And I swear to God, the guy goes, man, that's the initiative I like. We're like, damn it, Ken, we were joking with you. Like, what the heck? Man? So even when I'm at the building, I mean, literally t-shirt and shorts. I don't wear shorts because I got some ugly legs, but t-shirt, jeans, that's what I wear all the time. And then when it comes to the concerts, it's a country concert. I'll throw on a flannel and put my cowboy boots on for the concert. That's about it. So it's pretty very laid back. It's the only time I'll look nice is if I got a client meeting with a new client coming up. Like if we're trying to get them on as an endorser or whatnot, I'll look nicer, but I'm not wearing a suit and jacket or anything like that unless I actually have to. So,
Right.
Yeah, man.
That raises a question. Endorsements. They have produced commercials.
Yep.
When you do an endorsement for a product, is that a separate contract?
Yeah. So I get, I get a normally yearly contract with the station. I'm on a 3-year deal right now. And then all my shows that I do outside of my Greenville market are added onto that contract. And then with the endorsements of the salespeople, those are all added contracts as well. And so when a client signs on for an endorsement, they sign on for a year commitment. So they're going to be with me for a year, 30-second to 60-second spots, depending on what the client wants. And then the frequency can change. A lot of my clients are 3 weeks on, 1 week off in a month. There's a couple that are 4 full on every week. There's one client I should say that's 3 days a week. And so they're a little less in the pay, but I know they run 3 days a week, and not a big deal. But that's where honestly I make my money on endorsements, because I get a pretty good chunk of that payout that the station gets. So anytime they email me, hey, this client wants to talk about an endorsement, I'm like, cool, let's meet. Like I just signed on with a new bar in Greenville last week called Group Therapy. It's pretty cool, like bar, putt, all kinds of stuff inside. And they're starting with me today, and I'm really excited about it because it's a really cool place, new, young, hip place in downtown Greenville. Man, this is gonna be awesome. And the guy was like so excited about having me on, or having me be his influencer, because he's heard me do a couple other businesses around town. It's like, that's the kind of energy I want. It's like, hey, that's what I'm all about, man. When you come to me, say you want me, that's the best thing. It's always awkward when you're trying to sell yourself to a company, but when they come after you, like, hell yeah, that's the way it should go. I endorse with Harley Davidson in Greenville And I haven't ridden in a while just because of kids. It freaks me out and having kids. But before I was riding, they had give me a bike that I would ride. And I'd ride a bike for 2-3 weeks and then turn it back in and they give me another one to ride. And I know guys that work with car dealers where they get a different car every week to drive and test out the new cars and stuff like that. It's pretty amazing. The influence is pretty darn cool. Like I did what was the one I did? What's it called? Omaha Steaks, and they sent me just for like 6 months. I got just steaks in the mail. I was like, this is fantastic, man. I was like, keep that coming. That's awesome. But then with it, if you're using the products and whatnot, you're talking about it on air, but you're also they'll sign a contract for your social media too. So you're keeping your posts on the social media current and stuff like that as well. So it can be pretty much anything. Like the house I live in, the company ended up endorsing me after I bought my second home with them because they're like, man, you're back for your second house. We're going to talk about you, or we want you to talk about us. So I talked about them on air, and they ended up working it out where they gave us some free upgrades for the house and whatnot because I was talking about. I was like, hey, I like that. So it's pretty cool.
Any other questions? None? Aaron, thank you so much.
Yeah, my
for
pleasure.
Spending time, because 50 minutes of your time is pretty incredible.
Well, thank you. And Don has all my contact info. If you guys want to follow me on social, I'll make sure he has all that. Any questions you have about the industry, I'm an open book. I love listening to audition tapes and giving the air checks too. I've had a couple people do that over the years, which is always fun. I remember being terrified of air checks when I first started. Like my one boss, he's like, all right, let's have an air check session. I'm just, God, I'm not ready for this. Like, let me go chug a beer real fast. Then we'll sit down and do this. Like, he terrified me. So I love listening to air checks now because I know how to be nice about it. But anything you guys and girls need help with, anything you want to run by me, questions, if you want pictures of my studio or specs of what I've got, let me know. I'll be glad to share it and help out. And one thing I'll tell you now, if you guys are looking into going into radio or even TV, and you're not on a podcast, doing a podcast at least once a week, you got to get on that. That's where, you can build a career out of podcasting nowadays if you are constant with it and keep the content good. And I always love when I see people say, I want to start a podcast. What should it be about? No. Start a podcast what you're passionate about. It could be anything. Like if you love trains, I guarantee you there's people who are going to listen to your podcast if you're talking about trains. So find that niche that you like talking about and get that podcast out there. And you never know, it could turn into a career for you for sure.
That's their next assignment.
Yeah.
It's in process right now.
Nice. There you go.
Yeah. Thank you much, Aaron. Really
Thank
appreciate
you. Appreciate it.
Did you hear him mention the Harley Davidson? There for a couple of years, every 3 weeks, he had a new Harley for an endorsement. And plus he got paid. They gave him a gas card and a Harley. And then he got paid on top of that to do the endorsements.
Is that like a conflict of interest or anything?
No, it's all done with a contract.
Oh,
It's very legal. Trust me, it's very legal. But, so do you get the impression that he works a little bit?
yeah.
Yeah, and as he told you, yeah, he has a contract for Greenville, then for each of the 7 other stations he does, he has a contract for each one of those. And then add the endorsements on top of it. That's a very profitable room he's sitting in. That's a very profitable room he's sitting in. But any other questions?